Welcome everybody to the D97 Candidates Forum brought to you by the PTO Council. We appreciate everybody being here. We have candidates you'll hear from tonight, a lot on tonight's agenda. Just by show of hands, just all of the PTO Council representatives from the various schools, if you just raise your hands. Awesome. Thank you all for being here. For folks that don't know, the PTO Council is made up of the PTO leadership, the presidents of each, and so that is who is helping put this together for your fodder and for your information. So thanks for being here tonight. The candidates that you will hear from tonight, in no particular order, but I'm going alphabetically. James Robert Breymaier is here. I have to make mention that Keisha Roy is not here. She's actually out of town, and we do have her answers to the questions here up front. So. A little closer? Okay.
So it's kind of giving some feedback.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
we're getting feedback. Oh, it might be my phone too. Which I should remind everybody, if you do have your phones on, if you could just either silence those or turn them off, that would be great. I'm going to do that myself. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. So Keisha's not here. She's out of town. We apologize for that, but her responses are here. We have Charity Ann Caldwell. Dr. Heather Claxton Douglas, Maya Ganguly, and beautiful child. Cynthia Ashford Hollis, here as well. Katherine Murray Liebl is here. And David Yamashita is here as well. So thank you all for your time tonight. We're looking forward to your responses. For tonight, the process and flow of this is going to go as such. We are going to have 4 questions that each candidate will answer, and we'll get 3 minutes to answer those questions. And if you guys don't know this, you are going to hear this now. So they have 3 minutes to answer those questions. They will be timed. And to make this a politically right process, we are actually going to pick names out of a hat so that there will be a different person starting each time as opposed to just starting from the beginning going to the end. So if everybody's good with that, that is tonight's process. Just some security, and just, in case of any fire or anything, seriously, so those doors are the exit doors out. That way, restrooms ladies are to the left and men to the right, just to know that. And welcome, folks. So without further ado, let's get started. And Hannah, who's here with us, she'll be picking and drawing. Everyone's name is in that hat, so there aren't any doubles in that. And she'll tell us who to start with.
First question with David.
Okay,
and then we'll go to Cynthia and then come back down this way.
Perfect. So everybody understands, so we'll start with David, and we'll go down the sequence and start, and then till everyone answers. And again, it's 3 minutes each question, and if we're ready to go.
And we'll give you guys a 1-minute warning and a 30-second warning.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right, is everybody ready? Okay, I think the microphone should be on the tables, and I think we are a go.
So the question is the first question, correct?
All right, so let me start with the first question, and David, you'll go in. So the first question is this. As you know, board members have 3 roles. They set the district policy, they set the budget, and they hire and evaluate the superintendent. What makes you uniquely qualified to perform each of these 3 duties? David, starting with you.
Well, I think it's very good to outline what the roles of the board are. It helps to set the expectations, particularly for the community, around what the board actually is responsible for. We are an agent of the Illinois State Board of Education. We have certain charges. There's even a booklet outlining what our responsibilities are and suggestions on how to do that. As we have three new members that will be on the board this next session, we will be all on a learning curve. As far as the requirements, budget is not my strong point. I'm not a finance guy. However, having sat in board meetings for the last 4 meetings when the referenda information and projections had started coming out on the November 7th meeting, I've learned an awful lot. So there's critical roles that we play in assessing what is right. Part of that is just common sense process of assessing what the goals are and how programs and spends actually support that goal. What are the needs assessments? How do these resources fit those needs? And are they ones that are prudent, particularly in light of the financial constraints we're facing? As far as the superintendent, hopefully we have a referendum and Dr. Kelly stays around, so hopefully we won't be put in that setting. But I've been involved with an extremely well-managed company over the last 36 years. I really have a good sense of what good management looks like and what I would look for in a superintendent, both good training around management as well as the credentials, and really the philosophy about how you get the most out of your teachers. In sales, we have a lot of parallels with teaching. I happen to be really incented within the company I work with as far as the kind of environment and culture that will really allow you to become the best person within all the challenges that you face with the various customers, knowing what to bring to the discussion, how to motivate people and engage them. So that part of those roles, I think, are pretty helpful. As far as the third, policy, certainly are driven by policy. We have some experts that I think will be a good interface with the governmental responsibilities and legal requirements, as well as confidentiality with our HR director. So there are a number of things that I think we collectively will do as a board, but my strength is probably around the management part of that, working with the superintendent to make sure we get the highest performance out of our teachers.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming out this evening. My background as far as district policy is when the job that I currently have, I was responsible when I was moving into child support of monitoring the grant that we had as a grant position. And we had the responsibility as being a supervisor and setting a policy and the procedures and how we process cases and timely get cases to court, as well as timely responses. And so that was part of my history as far as procedure and policy and setting up an organization. As far as the budget, I don't have a huge background in budget. However, I was responsible, as I say, with a grant that was over $1 million that we had to be responsible for. And in that, in responsibility, we had to make decisions of who we would cut, who we would keep, what programs we would support. It was a difficult decision as we have now in our district, but it's something that had to be done, and we managed to keep the services in place for people who needed them in that time in my child support division. As far as evaluating the superintendent, my background with that is specifically with, in my office, I was involved with the process of hiring attorneys. We had many applicants and still do have many applicants who come to our office, and we have the responsibility of hiring the best. We do look at their qualifications. We look what they have went to school. We also look and see what they have done, and volunteering is part of that as well. So I have had some experience in identifying a good candidate for certain positions, although I have never been a part of looking at the superintendent to come to the school. I was very impressed with Dr. Kelly when she was applying for the superintendent, and I think we did a good pitch with her. I'm very satisfied.
And that's
Can you hear me? All right. Hi, thank you for coming out. I'm going to start with budget. My first job coming out of my undergrad was fundraising for the Joffrey Ballet of Chicago and the National Museum of Women in the Arts. National Museum of Women in the Arts kept me for 6 months, and because the arts are always the first thing to be asked, I had to find another job pretty quickly, and I found it at the Joffrey where I had done an internship. So I knew sort of basic budgeting, basic accounting from that experience. After that, I was at Vanderbilt's Women's Social Policy and Research Center, and there I was in charge of our grant management as the Assistant Director of Research, because it was a small place and someone had to roll their sleeves up, and I said I was going to learn it, and I did. Currently, I am the APO, the Agency Purchasing Officer, for the Illinois Department of Employment Security, which means I manage a staff of union employees, and I do approximate budget projections for our major contracts and our bids. Because of my overlap, I'm sort of part administration. Because of the contracts, I am part legal, I'm an attorney, and because of the fact that there's so much finance, I'm actually technically report to our CFO. So I spend a lot of time sitting with the accountants, feeling like the dumbest person in the room, but I also have a great deal of experience on budgeting and numbers, even though they still scare me a little bit. But it's rolling up your sleeves and getting into the weeds and knowing what's going on. In terms of hiring and evaluating a superintendent, I hire and I evaluate my staff as a person who is manages union employees. They are through the union, so it's a little different, but I've also been part of the process of hiring consultants and in reviewing RFPs for external large consultant contracts. In terms of policy, as I said, I was at the Women's Social Policy and Research Center. I also have written and rewritten many bylaws in my days, helped the process of our Young Professional Boards Lawyers Committee for Better Housing, that bylaw policy rewrite, along with the students of color for my law school, and that is it.
Hey, let me just interject just for Maya, thank you. Just as we continue throughout, there's people coming in at various times, if you just say your name as you begin, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Maya Ganguly.
Hi, my name is Cynthia and Caldwell. Thanks for coming out as well. So the question about policy, budget, and hire and value of the superintendent. So as far as district policy is concerned, my feeling, you can read in our bios, my background is higher ed, and I was also a District 97 student. I'm a District 97 parent, as many of us here are. And my feeling is that policy needs to be driven by communication with the community and some community needs. We've had questions at forums about policy already, about our policy for transgender students, the procedure that's currently in the policy manual. And that's just one example of how we need to communicate with the community and find out what the community needs, the District 97 community, and see what we need to change, update, or otherwise put in place to best protect and serve the students of District 97. So as a higher ed person and someone who has a little bit of a background in education, I feel that the policy should be in place for the community that it serves, instead of coming like in a top-down kind of a way. That's my feeling on that. As far as setting the budget, I do not have any specific budgetary experience, as some of these other candidates have mentioned they do, but I do have a degree in physics, and I have taken a lot of math. A lot of math. So doing the math is not scary to me at all. Although I admittedly do not have specific budget experience outside of, running a few conferences and stuff in previous jobs. Hiring and evaluate the superintendent. So right now we have a superintendent. As far as evaluating the superintendent, I think hearing from the teachers is an important part of evaluating the superintendent. Hearing from the community is a part of evaluating the superintendent. I think just, test scores or these hard metrics are not the only way to form an evaluation of the superintendent. I think the people who work under that superintendent have some voice in that, and the students who are being served by those staff and teachers and the superintendent also have some voice in that. I have not evaluated a superintendent before, as I've never been on a school board before, but that's my feeling about, about the most important aspects of that process. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather Claxton Douglas. So I'm a doctor because I have a PhD. I can't actually remove anyone's appendices. But going through 6 years of scientific training, if you are all about evidence-based studies and evidence-based research, I am either your best friend or I am your worst enemy. Because I ask good questions, but I have no problem pointing out and saying, that sounds really nice, but is this actually going to achieve what we want it to? How is it going to achieve what we want it to? Are we the appropriate entity to do that? And is there something better? Those are key questions that I have no problem asking. I also don't have a problem playing devil's advocate. So as you can imagine, I'm a blast at parties. Everybody hates me. But those are going to be very good qualities on a school board. What makes me uniquely qualified? All right, so while I was getting my PhD, I took policy classes, and so I learned how to do program assessments, asking those questions. Is there something better? Is this achieving what it's supposed to be? I also love to do research, so if you have questions about what's the best way to do something, I will find it, and I will find at least 3 sources to either prove you right or prove you wrong.
Hi, I'm Katherine Liebl, and I will start with my experiences as a middle school teacher, former middle school teacher. I'm currently home with my 4 children. I've worked in a variety of educational settings from pre-K all the way to high school, including special ed classrooms, but the majority of my experience was in middle school. As I said, I'm the parent of 4 children, 3 of whom are in D97, so that we started off in PKP, how long ago? 9 years ago, and now my oldest is in 5th grade, so we've experienced the district from the very early days of PKP all the way to now going into middle school. So what I believe, I also served as Longfellow's co-president on the PTO. So as far as budget, policy, and hiring of superintendent goes, I would say policy-wise, I've had a number of different experiences as a parent in D97, working on different aspects of different policies. I have a child with food allergies, and so I've worked with food allergy parents to help the district make decisions about policy and how that affects kids in classrooms, and how to make the food allergy kids safe and create a learning environment where everyone can thrive and everyone can be safe and understand what's going on. And so I've been involved in the policy discussions regarding food allergies. I also have recently been working with parents, talking to the district about our pledge to educate the whole child, but the disconnect between saying you're educating the whole child and then doing something like taking recess away for missing an assignment. So I've been involved with parents going to the district, talking about, if we're going to say we're educating the whole child, then let's think about how all these things are interrelated and connected to one another. Let's see, I don't want to run out of time here, 1 minute. As far as budget goes, so I worked with the Longfellow PTO as the co-president, and my budget experience there, I feel like, was kind of a small representation of what we would be doing for the District 97 board, which is allocating funds to all of our students, paying particular attention to our most vulnerable. For our Longfellow PTO, we made decisions about programming for kids, programs like Girls on the Run, Let Me Run, Kumbah Kids. So we're talking about cultural experiences and programs that help kids who are struggling either socially, emotionally, or with self-esteem and things like that. I'm quickly running out of time. So as far as hiring superintendent goes, my husband and I have been here for 15 years, and I feel like my experience as a parent and as a resident here could aid in evaluating a superintendent, knowing what the community's needs are.
Great, thank you, Kathy.
Hi everyone, I'm Rob Breymaier. It says James Robert Breymaier there, but my parents called me by my middle name ever since I was a kid, so if you know me as Rob Breymaier. I don't know that I'm uniquely qualified for this position, but I would say that I have a lot of the experiences necessary to be able to fulfill what we need to do as board members. So as far as policy goes, I've been working on policy issues for 20 years, particularly around issues of racial equity, racial integration, in a lot of civil rights arenas. So I've had a lot of experience with policy, both from all sorts of levels, whether we're talking about what we're doing in an institution, all the way up to what we're doing with legislation, and that includes federal, state, and local legislation that I've worked on. So I've had a lot of experience with that, and I think it doesn't only talk about what we're doing as far as like how do you set policy, how do you create policy, but what are the effects of policy, what's going to change, and what are maybe some of the unintended consequences that might come from a policy change. I'm trying to think ahead about those. As an executive director of a nonprofit here in town for the last 11 years, I've had a lot of experience with budgeting. I have to make a lot of decisions to make sure that we can fit within the budget that we have. And sometimes that requires us to make really difficult decisions about what we have to cut or what we don't have to cut, and we have to be able to do all these things in a way that helps us remain strong and able to achieve our goals and achieve our mission. So I think I will be able to take those skills and transfer them as a board member. And then, thinking about supervising the superintendent, I've had a lot of experience supervising people. It's a small nonprofit, so in a sense, I'm sort of everybody's boss there. We've done a little bit better in the last few years of having some tiers there, but I have to supervise a lot of people, and we have to, maintain that in a way where we make sure that everybody understands where they fit within the mission, and are they doing their job, to the best of their ability, or are we being as effective as possible? But probably what I've gotten the most experience about, which would be best translatable, as an ED, I get evaluated every year by my board. And so that experience, I think, is very helpful in me understanding how, it's a pretty similar thing. It's a volunteer board assessing and evaluating someone who's a career CEO, essentially. Trying to figure out what's best and how is that person really accomplishing their job, and are they doing it to the best of the ability and then with the mission of the institution in mind. So I feel like I'm pretty prepared. I don't know if I'm uniquely prepared, but I'm pretty prepared.
Rob, thank you very much. Candidates, all of you, thank you. That was level 1. Level 2. District 97 is asking for support of 2 ballot measures on April 4th. One is for $13.3 million to fund day-to-day expenses like salaries and curriculum materials. The second is for a $57.5 million in bonds to fund infrastructure costs like maintenance, required life safety upgrades, and expansion. As you know, if the referendum fails, the board will need to balance the budget shortfall of $4 million in year 2017-18, and an additional shortfall of $6 million to $8 million in the subsequent year, for a total of $10 million to $12 million in cuts. This is equivalent to the staff cost of 70 to 80 teachers. Which staff and programming would you first cut, and why? We're going to draw from the hat and see which candidate starts us off. Thank you, Hannah.
Katherine. I'm just going to say, because that's such a long question, maybe like halfway through repeat, just so the audience can remember. Yeah, thanks.
We'll repeat the question halfway through. Sorry.
Okay, hi, again, I'm Katherine, and when asked about, I was reflecting on this question about the cuts that are necessary, and I've attended a number of the board meetings and talked to a million different people about this, and most of you probably are familiar with the list of cuts or proposed cuts that has been passed around. And I feel like the board did the best job possible laying out a structured proposal for what we'll need to do in the event that both referenda fail. And so there are goals, and there are goals that I agree with. The first one being stay away from the classroom for as long as possible. And so that was the intended goal of their cuts, and I feel like they followed through in their listing of the positions. So I would cut the non-instructional positions first. And I realize as an educator that means a lot to the teachers, because that means that all of their support is basically wiped out from underneath them. And so I would like to see if, in the event that has to happen, and we start to cut non-instructional positions and assistants, that we then kind of bump up the professional development that we're offering to our teachers so that they can have more support as far as classroom management and differentiation and being able to just balance all of the extra load that we will be asking of them in the event that they fail. The other big cut that probably would have to be made, which is also listed, is the restructuring of the middle school. So right now, again, most of you probably already know this, but we have a middle school that's set up basically as schools within a school to give the kids a smaller experience, a more personalized experience. And with the cuts, the most logical thing to do would be to go back to departmental situation where they would no longer have the schools within the school, but it's more efficient to have a science department and a math department. And so I feel like that would be something that we would need to look at. And I don't think we can get around cutting, the music and the arts and the foreign languages, as much as that breaks my heart to say that out loud. We have to go by what's mandated for a free and appropriate public education. And so I feel like the district's hands are tied a little bit. Ideally we would, if the referendum fail, ideally we would try to supplement by bringing in volunteers and connecting with different community organizations that could possibly provide some of those supplemental music and art programs, foreign language programs. But I'm hoping, against all odds, that this is not something we'll even have to discuss. So, thanks.
I don't have a whole lot of it. What I have to say isn't much different. I mean, we're going to, of course, try to stay as far away from the classroom as we can to begin with, but everything that you cut has an effect. And so whether you try to keep it in administration and non-instructional persons, it's still going to be a problem because that's a part of the structure that's going to be taken away. So, but it's probably less of an effect than if you're going to cut a teacher. Eventually, if we don't pass this, we are going to have to look at figuring out where are we going to cut for teachers as well, because there's just not going to be enough money for all of them. And what that is going to mean is we're going to have larger classroom sizes, and that means that we're going to have to come up with some other way to make sure that our teachers are able to provide a setting where all of our kids can achieve in those larger classrooms. I think, other things that I would try to look at, even though I have no idea really if these are the best things for us to go after, I'd have to dig in deeper, but I'd look at our transportation budget and see if there's a way that we could save some money in transportation. It's not, administration and transportation, neither of them are anywhere near as large as what the, personnel budget is. But, at least in the first year, we could maybe make some significant progress to finding some way to get down to the cuts. Of course, that's really hard for some of the parents who are particularly like in Lincoln, where they live far away from school and they're bused there. Some special needs kids who get bused to Irving, that's going to be very difficult for those families as well. So we're going to have to figure out not how to not have transportation, but maybe do it in a way that's a little bit less expensive. If the capital expenditure referendum doesn't pass, then we are going to have some serious issues about trying to figure out how are we going to prioritize what's going to happen first. Obviously, the things that are about life safety are going to have to come first, but we have a lot of work to do on making sure that all of our buildings are fully accessible as well. We have to figure out, where we're going to prioritize those things. In the end, what we're saying is that if we don't pass this referendum, or we don't pass these referenda, we're going to be hurting. We're going to have a school district that is not going to be able to perform at the level it has been performing now. So, we can all try and figure out what is the least painful way to make those cuts, but they're going to be cuts, and they are going to be an effect on our school district. And eventually, they're going to be all of the cuts, unless we figure out some other way to bring in money. But in the meantime, we can also try to figure out how to maybe save some money or try to do some other things. But we're going to see major cuts, and it's going to hurt our district. And so hopefully we won't have to come to this, but if we do, we'll all try to do it as thoughtfully and carefully as possible, trying to make sure that as we're pulling different pieces out, they're not making other pieces fall.
And just a reminder to say your names again for Phil and those coming in.
Hi, David Yamashita. Which child do you want me to let go? which baby do we not want to keep in our family? It is actually quite hurtful. I think every candidate up here is hoping and praying that we pass this referendum because seriously, it's going to be a very ugly 4 years for any of us that get elected. It's already starting. The trust that this board, the recent board has, I think, neglected is one of the things that is recommended in this lovely handbook about boards, and part of it is engagement with the community. So every parent, every PTO member is going to have a favorite issue that is near and dear to their heart, that really has impacted their child in a profound way. And I don't know as a board how we're going to decide which child to cut, which child to give away. Structurally, we have a $10 million deficit. We have 500 more children in the district since the last referendum. And it has put us in a spot that without the community's input, without the engagement of the community, every day I'm hearing, we don't trust the board. They promised in 2011 we wouldn't have another referendum. It actually was stated, it just was hard to find. The amount of information that Dr. Kelly has put forward is very specific. It tells you the numbers. This is what the board asked her to do. They gave her the target numbers, and with certain criteria, this is what she was able to put up. 80% of our budget is salaries and benefits, and if you take the estimate of a starting teacher at $57,000 with benefits, you're probably looking at a minimum of $70,000 per person. There is no way we can cut programs, services, gas, heat. This is going to be a really ugly choice. We don't have much choice. I don't think anyone's going to offer any other solutions. I think the previous two candidates have already looked at what we might try to do, but it is just not going to be the same district that we have come to love and enjoy and value in this community. I would ask everyone here to make sure that we don't get to that scenario because it really, I would prefer not to be elected, seriously. How do you make these choices when all these people are very, very satisfied with our district and how it's impacted their children and what the fabric of this school district is to this community? I just don't know how to answer this question with, I think, the kind of sensitivity to the community that I think it's just going to be ugly as far as everyone being upset with our decisions, and the board is just not going to be a happy place to be. Sorry, I can't really answer the way you want.
Cynthia, Ashford, Hollis. I struggle with this question so much that it just really hurts me to see that we're in this situation, but unfortunately we are. If it doesn't pass, and you're going to see this repeated by most of us, there's going to be severe cuts. And based on that, the best board to do is to make the reductions equally across the district that least affects the children, the education of the children, because that's who we are, and that's why we're here tonight. The reductions have been laid out. However, once again, non-structural are the ones that we would hope would be the first thing that we cut, but that's important too. So it's a really hard question, and then I struggle with it because I don't have a real answer to give everybody. I don't think anyone has an answer. The board has laid out strategically how they're going to cut specific ones, but when you get behind the doors and see faces of who you're going to cut, you just won't know until you get there. And so I strongly support the referendum passed and based on the needs that we have for the children. There's a lot of things in store that we want to do, and if we don't pass this referendum, we won't be able to do it. So I don't want to see the cuts in teachers or the arts, because I think the arts stimulate the minds, and I think a lot of kids are touched by the arts as well. If we cut foreign language, that's not good thing as well, because a lot of kids enjoy that. So, I'm running out of time, sorry. This is just a heartfelt subject for me, and that's the best I can ask for you all. I really do not want to see the cuts, but if we have to do them, we try to do them based on least effect on the education of the children.
Cynthia, thank you very much. Before we start with Maya, I just want to iterate again, so Katherine, Rob, David, Cynthia, thank you for answering as far as tough issues. This is why we're asking the question. But let me reiterate the question as well, because people have come in as well. It's a long question, really of two parts. So just recall, District 97 is asking for support of two ballot measures on April 4th. One is for $13.3 million to fund day-to-day expenses like salaries and curriculum materials. The second is for up to $57.5 million in bonds to fund infrastructure costs like maintenance, required life safety upgrades, and expansion. As you know, if the referendum fails, the board will need to balance the budget shortfall of $4 million in the 2017-18 school year and an additional shortfall of $6 to $8 million in the subsequent year for the total of $10 to $12 million in cuts total. This is equivalent to the staff cost of 70 to 80 teachers. Which staff and programming would you cut first? Maya, the floor is yours.
So I lied a little bit. The arts are not always the first thing to get asked. I think that the current board, for their strengths and their weaknesses, has laid out very clearly with the referenda nuclear option, what happens, administration, special programs, and then things that are not federally mandated. Which now brings me to something I'm passionate about. Foreign languages, the arts, music, gifted and talented programs. Those are all things that we're going to have to seriously look at, evaluate. I do a lot of penny pushing at work. And the thing is, at the end of the day, there's only so much penny squeezing you can get. There's only so much juice you can get out of a dry, rotten apple. And that is what we're looking at. These are not pennies. Every solution I have heard on Facebook working moms group, someone always comes up with some brilliant idea, and you do the math, and it's a drop in the bucket. It is going to be painful. It is going to hurt. And one of the reasons that I wanted to run is I needed to make sure that I could look myself in the mirror, because my kids are going to be at homes, and they are going to be the ones who are going to be in trailers. And I am going to have to look my sons, this is the youngest one, in the eye, and that is hard. And, at church yesterday, I was talking to some of the kids at homes, and they were telling me about what it is like right now and how overcrowded it is. And you can say whatever you want, but you better be able to look those children in the eye and tell them that they do not matter as much as your taxes.
Sorry, Grumpy Maya just came out. I agree with several candidates here who said, the current board has laid out, they've done, I think, the best they can to say if there are no dollars to pay teachers, these are the ones who are not going to get paid anymore. And that's a horrible thing to say. I still play viola at Neal Park and River Forest Symphony, and I started playing at Holmes when I was in second grade. And we're a bilingual family. I speak Spanish at home with my kids. And my kids like art. I guess that one I don't have, in my house as much. But these are things that I care deeply about. I have no interest in eliminating any of these things for any students. As Maya said, people come up with solutions like, no longer subscribing to, computer programs that are available currently in the schools, or eliminating equipment. And, you know, maybe that would be something that might happen as well, but that is not equivalent to the salaries of 80 teachers. You know, that's a small amount of this vast sum of money. So we are required to provide math and reading and certain things federally mandated to our students, and we're going to have to keep paying those teachers. Those are not teachers we have a choice of cutting, and we don't want to cut any of them. I would be interested in attempting to, you know, if it were to fail, would we go for another referendum in a year? I would hope so, but in the meantime, for the fall, we would have to do some things differently. And I think that even though it would not be a fun place to be, I still think that I would want to be a part of that conversation on the school board, because I know absolutely that I don't want to cut anybody for any reason. Because our schools are providing, as a parent of a student already in District 97, the amount of things she's exposed to every day is just phenomenal. It's wonderful. And the kids who aren't from bilingual families are still going to Spanish class, and I love that. That's just, very few places provide that, and we do, because we value that as a community. And I don't want to see the nuclear option laid out by the current school board come into reality, and I am knocking on doors for a referendum. That's what I can tell you.
Hi. So let me throw out some numbers first. Last year, the budget, we spent about $97.7 million, right? So a cut of 10 to 12 million, you're looking at about 10%. Okay. So starting there at about 10 million to 12 million, I will be honest, teachers and salaries would probably be cut. Yes, they're 80%, and there's this other 20% of this, I'm going to round up for easy math, 100 million. We're looking at, yeah. So I guess I veered from my script, sorry. All right, so 10 to 12 million. I would get rid of the iPads. That's $500,000 per year, plus the 10 media aids that would be associated with that. A teacher once recently just told me that we spent $1.2 million on a new writing curriculum. I would probably stop buying curriculums. That means if we don't have the money, why are we spending that much on things? I would probably cut the IB program. It sounds like a lot of the teachers aren't very happy with it. A lot of the parents aren't very happy with it, specifically because it causes you to choose between art or music. I would I would cut a lot of the instructional software. I know Charity mentioned that. But for instance, Rosetta Stone, we spend a couple $100,000 on Rosetta Stone. The library I know that's not close to $1 million, but you asked what I would cut. So the library often can get a community-wide license for things like Rosetta Stone, and in fact, they are able to get software such as Mango, which is a foreign language software competitor to Rosetta Stone. I don't see a reason why we need to have that software here in the school district when we can work with the library and get that money elsewhere. I would work with the library to see what other programs that would be available to the other parents of the community, including those that go to Ascension and so on and so forth. And yeah, that's all I could come up with. Sorry, guys.
Great. That was a tough round, but well executed. Thank you for your comments on that. You finished level 2. Level 3. So the question here is, Dr. Kelly has spent the last 18 months working with the community to create a vision for D97. How would you put this vision into action? Give specific examples. Hannah's going to draw from the hat here, and we will start with
Rob.
Rob. Start us off.
All right, thank you.
If you could remember to just say your names again, people.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
I'm Rob Breymaier. Thank you. The vision, there's a vision document that's a little bit longer and lays out a few things, and I kind of looked through it to see like what really makes sense for a board member to be part of and to maybe take a lead on. So I just have come up with a few different things that I think I'd want to be part of. So one is suggest that we do an audit of what the district is doing and whether or not it's effective, and are there better ways to do it? Are there things that we could do differently? I would certainly want to be part of that process. I would want to help audit those things, and in that process, because I really am, running on and a strong principal believer in the idea that we need to create the greatest equity possible in our school system, I would want to make sure that that audit is including equity within it. How are we making sure that each one of our kids are getting the best and most opportunity out of our school district, being able to live up to their full potential? So that would be one of the things that I'd want, I think, of utmost importance in that audit, would make sure that we're getting the feedback from all of the parents that we can in the district, including the parents that are hardest to reach, so that we can really understand whether or not we're providing the things that are necessary and needed by them. I think that connection to equity and inclusion is going to be something that I'd want to foster in our accountability structure. That would hold us to the goals of the vision. So the board is obviously going to be very involved in whether or not we're accountable to what we are doing. And I think that one of the more important components of this whole vision is that we're doing a better job with communicating with the community. So all these sort of things come back to what are we doing as board members to really be a conduit between what the administration is doing and what the community is looking for, so that we can help explain in both directions what is wanted, what is necessary, what is missing, what is appreciated. And so I would run really hard on being part of that effort as well. I think change is something that's really hard to communicate, so as we make some change through this vision, I have pretty good experience with dealing with change management and trying to make sure that we understand it. And I also have a lot of experience in explaining how changes in equity and changes in how we do things will end up helping everyone, and not just the folks that seem most directly, where that help seems to be most directed, but how we can all benefit from it. So those are three ways in which I think I can be involved, but there are, there's a list of like 50 different ways you can get involved, and a lot of them are going to require all of you to be involved as well, so hopefully that'll be great and happen.
I like this question a lot. Dave Yamashita. Two things. If you look at Dr. Kelly's vision statement, the first box, the first slide, trust and communication. Over the course of the last few months, it has become so clear to me that the trust in this district is tattered and torn at many levels. If you look at the teachers' perspective, they've had 3 different superintendents over the last 10 years. They've been whipsawed from what has been described as a tribal setup, where each school operated in its own, as its own little country, to Dr. Roberts' vision that needed to reorganize these schools so that everyone did the same. We've had Common Core, No Child Left Behind, changes in curriculum. In talking to some of the teachers, one of the biggest challenges they're facing is mastery of the topic, so that they feel comfortable in teaching our children. So part of the board's responsibility, and this is what I am trying to put us in a leadership position, is to open up these channels of communication, do it in a very respectful fashion, to try to regain that trust that is really needed for every part of this district to operate fully. And since our biggest resource in getting the most out of our children's education is the teachers, that's the first place I want to work. Obviously, it's the risk of micromanaging the superintendent, but with her outline of where she wants to be, part of it is the value proposition for the teachers and giving them the ability to really do their job well, supporting them, getting their back, and finding the resources to help them and having them in I stole this line from my own company, courage and candor. This really encourages the teachers or anyone else in the school to speak up, to try and improve things without full respect for what they have to bring to the table. It may not be something that we adopt, but at least we encourage people to really look outside themselves to improve the function. I believe that if we get teachers to move in this direction, that they are feeling comfortable, supported, and really do the most for our students, some of the equity issues will start evaporating. Certainly not the only answer, one of which I don't know if she's really outlined, is something of cultural competence. We all have differences in how we grew up, how our perceptions are. We need to understand those and understand how others with different backgrounds within the school, both students as well as other teachers, operate, and make sure these differences don't get in the way. But this trust is really the biggest factor, I think, in moving us forward. I'm all in on trying to help Dr. Kelly move this, and I think the board can take a leadership role in trying to engage both the community, teachers, parents, and students, as well as their union, in trying to build that and move it forward.
Cynthia, Ashford, Hollis. The one thing that I would like to see is support for the teachers for professional development and moving forward with the vision plan. I think they would need a lot of support, as well as like reinforcement with parents and letting the parents know what's going on in the classroom and how things are moving forward. That way reinforcement can be at the home as well as in school, because you need both support for a child. You want to continue that support, it has to be at the home as well as during the school. So professional development that will recognize any maybe biases or those standards that are in place that need to be turned around, as well as maybe development for parents to identify certain things that they may not know need to be changed. If their child is not reading at a level that they think they should be at, then that needs to be transpired between the teacher and the parents. I'm a firm believer in communications between parents and teachers, and I think it should happen more often than it does. I'm daily, on a weekly basis. It's not nonsense. It's really like, how's my child doing today? And I think that's crucial when you're talking about changing and identifying inequities in children. As far as the inequity problem, that's going to, I believe, take more social services in the school to identify the issues that there may be. And the parents need to be involved in that process as well. I don't know how many people ever talk to the social service workers who are in these schools. They're really resourceful when you're talking about helping children and identifying any issues. And every child doesn't have a particular issue where they're not learning, but sometimes they have peer pressure. And so I would like to see more, personally, I would like to see more than one social worker in a school. I think that would be helpful. Also, data tracking to monitor the process of children needs to be in place where you can actually see and track that child. If the child is stagnated and not moving, then there needs to be some meetings and questions asked as to why this child is not moving. So monitoring that type of data needs to be crucial. And also, as the whole child, there must be parent involvement. So I would like to see more parent involvement in communications between the teachers and the administrative staff.
Great. Rob Breymaier, Dave Yamashita, Cynthia, Hollis, thank you. Let me just restate the question as we start at the beginning here, as we have folks that just came in as well. So Dr. Kelly has spent the last 18 months working with the community to create a vision for D97. How would you put this vision into action? Give specific examples.
Maya Ganguly. I think the vision is a wonderful, beautiful thing. I was rereading the community guidance for the District 97 vision, and I was just like, this is fantastic. The idea of equity, bridging gaps, better community engagement, looking at the child as a whole. To steal from the appendices and reiterate what Rob said, an audit, looking at how we are able to achieve this, looking at our mechanisms, the nuts and bolts and screws. The other thing I would suggest is stronger teacher support, and stronger teacher support coming from better education of cultures, of races, of implicit bias. In addition, I think that you can never underestimate the importance of when you're doing evaluation, it not just being test scores, it being about the full child, it being about sitting in the classroom with those teachers while they are teaching and looking at what they are doing. Those are things that cannot be underestimated.
Hi, I'm Charity Ann Caldwell. So the vision statement is to create a positive learning environment for all District 97 students that is equitable, inclusive, and focused on the whole child. So there are lots of key terms there. It's essentially all key terms, right? And as far as specific examples, I think Dr. Kelly has done a great job of mapping those key terms onto specific measurables and objectives. And some of them are test scores, and some of them are surveys taken by the students. And that gives us a lot of information about how students feel or how they're performing, but it doesn't explicitly tell us how to improve how students feel or how they're performing. And what I think we could do is to take some of these excellent goals that she has, including for the positive learning environment. One of the items that's listed is every community member feels like a partner in supporting our schools. And my observation at our school, I'm at BI, I'm a BI parent, and in talking to other parents at other schools, is that we're not doing a great job of that. I've seen both at BI and at other schools, there's a group of people who do the planning for events, and those are the same people who come to the events. There are a lot of parents of the students in my daughter's class, for instance, who haven't come to events. And we know they don't come to events because they haven't come to any events yet this year. So let's reach out. Let's go, instead of just sending an email, let's say, hey, you're really invited to come. Knock on doors, call people up, ask for permission to text, and say, hey, we notice you haven't been at the last 3 or 4 events. Please come. We'd love for you to come. When is the time you can make it? Let's plan an event, let's take a poll and plan an event on a day you can make it. And that's not solving anybody's test score right away, but that's one element of including the entire community, really including the entire community. Saturday, I went to International Taste of Homes and I was blown away. Your kids are gonna have a great time. It was phenomenal. I have not seen such a diverse and inclusive event ever in 30 years in District 97. It was just phenomenal. I've attended the Ethnic Fest every year, so when I was a kid, and now I take my kids to the parade, and they do love it. You get the candy. But this event at Holmes was just next level. And if anybody's from Holmes here, you can give yourself a holler, because that was amazing. And it was so fun. But I've gotten off topic there, sorry. Other key terms, equity and, thank you, inclusive and whole child focused, caring adult-student relationships, having students lead their own learning. Each student is known for who they are and their unique needs are met. All of these are things that we can do as a district if we are intentional about communication, about reaching out, and about bringing people who usually don't come to the school into the school so they feel comfortable in the office and with the teachers, and really to have an open line of communication. And I went over my time. Apologies.
Hi. So the question says, I'm going to reread the question. Dr. Carol Kelly has spent the last 18 months working with the community to create a vision for D97. How would you put this vision into action? Give specific examples. So I've been told many times that as a board member, I have one employee, and that is the superintendent, and I have to let her do her job. I can't do her job for her. So my plans are a little more ancillary. I'm in agreement with David. I heard the exact same thing, that there's a lot of trust issues with the teachers and the administration. And a lot of that is a holdover from the previous superintendent. But whenever I talk to teachers, I ask, what can we do to rebuild that trust? And so I've gotten a lot of creative solutions. I've heard teachers say that they don't feel comfortable providing anonymous comments electronically. So then we find another way for them to give anonymous feedback somehow. Maybe that's just writing a note and mailing it in or something. They mentioned that they would like a spot at the school board next to the press corps. I think that's a pretty easy solution. They've asked that they be consulted on what is going on in their classrooms, and they often feel that their opinions have not been taken into consideration. Well, that, as a school board member, we can certainly do that, and we can definitely give feedback on the feedback that they have, and just start a two-way conversation, because there's nothing worse than feeling like you're talking to a brick wall and then waiting 3 or 4 days to get a response back. So that's probably step number one. Step number two, Dr. Kelly brought up just a minute. So Dr. Kelly did her PhD within the achievement gap, and I started reading her thesis because I like to do research and I like to read about research. And one of the things that's very striking to me is that when they talk about how to fix the achievement gap in a high-achieving suburban school such as this, their responses are that the thing that has the most impact is having somebody there that believes in the kids, somebody there that encourages the kids. And so I think as a school board member, one of the things that I would do is I would try to bring in our community to help work with the kids, to help volunteer with the kids, find ways to make those connections within people in the community.
Thanks. And Katherine again. Okay, so first of all, I want to say that I really applaud Dr. Kelly and the board for putting this vision together. And I think that they and she did a great job of listening to our community for an entire year and really honing in on the things that we are saying that we want and the things that we are saying that we need. And so I'm excited that we're getting close to putting some of these things into practice. My first focus that I would like to see that I think goes along really well with the vision is to kind of eliminate some of the subtle tracking that goes on at our elementary school. If you're familiar with multi-tiered systems of support, that enables teachers to keep the kids in the classroom and provide supports within the classroom so that you are learning in an inclusive environment and you're learning alongside your peers that have different strengths and weaknesses. You're learning from each other. And so I love that. And I think that, again, this vision has all of the pieces needed to really put those things into action. I feel like those systems of support enable, especially the struggling learners, to get a better big picture sense of what they're trying to achieve and what the main goal of the learning experience is. So rather than being pulled out away from their peers, we can offer support so that they don't have to disengage from the larger conversation going on in the room, whatever that is, whether that be math or science or reading. The second thing that I would like to really see a focus on is trying to bridge some of the divide by allocating more funding to enrichment opportunities within the district for kids that may not otherwise have access to those opportunities. This summer, District 97 is trying out a new program. Instead of the traditional summer school, they are offering something called Summer Launch. So the district is paying for a certain number of kids who would have normally been invited to a traditional summer school program to participate with the Oak Park Education Foundation and work right alongside other students who are just choosing that for their summer opportunity. And I feel like those type of innovative ideas really are the key to trying to bridge at least in part, the achievement and opportunity gap that we're experiencing here in District 97. So, thanks.
Excellent, excellent. Just a couple things. A lot of folks have come in and weren't here at the beginning. Just so that you know, and you would have received a sheet with the handouts here. Keisha Bori is not in town, could not be here, but her answers are up here in case you don't have them. So the answers are up here, just to be fair. Kisa, I'm so sorry. So I mispronounced that. I apologize for that. She's not here, so let her know I did that. I apologize. Kisa. The other thing is there won't be a Q&A post, but you'll have time, since Kisa's not here, and to the extent that the candidates can stay around, to have one-on-one time with them. So in lieu of Q&A, we'll be able to do that post. All right. And now we're on to level 4, which is the last question, and maybe the hardest question. What are your top 3 priorities for the district? And keeping suit, Hannah's given us the name of who's starting us off.
Charity.
That's good. Perfect.
Thanks so much.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Charity Ann Caldwell. This is a great question. I love this question. So my top priority for the district is to engage the community. So you can tell from my previous very enthusiastic answer, I think reaching out and being explicitly and intentionally inclusive, not just inviting everyone to come to things, but saying, hey, we'd love for you to come here, is a huge part of something that we could do differently that I think we have not done as well. And I think I see some Holmes people looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I will tell you, it's not the same at Holmes as it is maybe at some other schools, because that's been my observation, and that's something that I've heard from parents at other schools as well. So that's one thing that I'd like to do. Another thing that I think would be a great opportunity to increase everybody's sense of belonging in the district would be a sort of, I guess it could fall under something you could say like parental education, to let parents know what is the curriculum that your students are supposed to be studying, that they're supposed to be learning in classes in District 97. Now I've got a kindergartner, she comes home with her homework, we can manage it, it's not a big deal. Kindergarten homework is a whole other issue, but I've heard from parents of 4th graders and 5th graders who already are having a hard time helping their kids with the math homework. And I am not here to be angry about any particular curriculum. As a math person, pretty much any math homework I think is pretty cool. But parents aren't feeling comfortable with it. And if they're not feeling comfortable with it, not only do they not perhaps support that learning at home, they might not know how to support that learning at home, and they might not even know what their kids aren't doing right. They have just no clue. And I think we need to do a better job of either getting the curriculum into parents' hands, or another aspect of that could be inviting parents in the beginning of the year and saying, hey, this is basically what we're doing. Here's how we're approaching math. Not in a parent-teacher conference, and not in a beginning of the year, learn everything about your school in 1 hour, but like a specific math night. Hey guys, for math specifically, also perhaps for reading at the higher levels, or whatever thing that each grade has its own foibles, right? Another aspect would be, as parents, as the year goes on, for students who aren't maybe performing as well, or aren't scoring well, or whatever, or teachers see that they might need more help, invite those families back in, not in a punitive way, just in another education night kind of way. Kids are having trouble with this right now, and these 8 kids in my class are having a hard time. Let's invite those 8 families in again and say, hey, this is what we're working on. This is what they're not able to do, and this is how we're going to open up that line of communication. Those are just some specific ideas. Parental education and community engagement, I only got to 2, but there you go.
Hi, so I'm like Charity. One of my top priorities is going to be community engagement. So I will be honest, I did not go to school here in Oak Park. I'm a transplant. I came from Michigan, that great big exodus of Michigan back in 2008. That was me. And so I went to a school that did not have even a quarter of the resources that you guys have here in Oak Park. For example, I did not have an art teacher at any point in time during my K through 12 grades. But I still had art. We would reach out to the community, right? So, for example, my mom took it upon herself to learn how to be a picture parent. And she took priceless works of art, she borrowed them from the library, came in and gave our third grade classes a little art history, and then she had a little project for kids to do. We had a couple kids whose parents were into historical reenactments, and so whenever we had our history classes, those parents came in and gosh, we had a blast. I can't describe to you how much fun that was. A couple of the teachers would host foreign exchange students. We had one in particular was from Japan, another one was from Australia. And so in those classes, those foreign exchange students would come in, talk to us about their cultures, do all kinds of things and activities to teach us about stuff. So even though we didn't have the resources, I still had a very rich life because we pulled from people in the community, and then I got to see people in the community that showed to care for me, and I loved it. So that's something that is very important to me, is increasing community engagement, drawing on the resources of the people here at Oak Park to come in and interact with the kids. Yeah. The next part, obviously, equity. The whole child is an excellent curriculum. We all want all of our students to achieve their full potential. I am not a fan of a one-size-fits-all education. I don't think anyone is, especially since I was never really average. I was either way below everyone or I was way above everyone. I never was in that middle. And then, last but not least, fiscal responsibility going forward is going to be a pretty important. There were some decisions that I do not support. I would not have supported the administration building. I would not have supported spending so many hundreds of thousands of dollars on new furniture, a variety of things, but I can't go back. I can only go forward. So I can promise, time's up.
Hi, I'm Katherine again. My top three priorities would be first and most important to me at this point in my life is to see District 97 increase the diversity of our staff. I'm an adoptive mom of 4 African American children, and I can tell you that my son last year in 4th grade had a life-changing experience with his teacher. His first male teacher, his first teacher who also happened to be black. My son just thrived. Some of his academic challenges, some of his behavioral challenges were almost wiped away. I really feel like this teacher was able to see him differently. His expectations were different. It made an immediate impact, and I'm hoping lifelong impact. This teacher's name gets constantly brought up in our household. What would this teacher think? How would this teacher respond to you if you did that? And so I feel like our children deserve to have people in front of them who they can relate to, who have high expectations for them. And it's important for all kids to learn from different teachers, from different backgrounds, different races, genders, ethnicities, physical capabilities. And I think we're struggling with that in District 97. And so I would like us to create an urgent timeline and really have our teaching staff reflect our community. So that is one of my main priorities. My second one would be to make sure that we're allocating our resources equitably. I think that we all need to come to an agreement that allocating equitably does not necessarily mean everyone gets the same thing. Dr. Kelly's been very clear that her vision for our district and the board's vision is for us to have an excellent standard and for us to do whatever we need to do to get all of the kids up to that excellent standard. My third would be that we are concentrating on the whole child education. I think in order to do that, we need to really focus on getting some consistent practices across all of our schools. I think everyone would benefit from that. I think that, and things are starting to change. Some discipline procedures, making sure certain students are not disproportionately being affected by discipline procedures. Some of those things are starting to happen, and I'm seeing the results, and they're positive, and so I'm excited about that. But I think that we have a long way to go when we're talking about making sure that when we say, I mentioned this before, when we're talking about the whole child and the physical aspect, that we're really paying attention to how often our kids are getting outside during the day. We're paying attention to teachers that are possibly removing recess time for things like missing assignments. I don't think that's a natural consequence, and I feel like you're disproportionately damaging, the kids' chance for success during the day. My time's up.
Okay, Rob Breymaier again. So I will say, first and foremost, the reason I'm running and the first thing that would be my top priority would be to take what is an excellent school system and leverage that strength so that we can provide real equity for every one of our kids. So I would like to see a school district where I knew that no matter who the kid was, when they entered District 97, by the time they left in 8th grade, they will have fulfilled their entire potential, and we would have made that possible. And that doesn't always happen now, and it's something that we know we need to work on. We know we have achievement gaps. We know those gaps are correlated with race and income, and we need to eliminate those gaps. So that is going to be my number one priority running for board and for being a board member. I know that if we do that, that all of our children will end up better, because all of our children will be in better classrooms with better peers who will challenge them more. Our instructors will be able to do more with them. So we need to make sure that we're fulfilling that promise, not only for those kids, but for all of our kids. Everybody in this district we're all tied together, right? So, secondly, I want to make sure that we can try and build on the sort of every one of our schools, as Charity spoke earlier, sort of has its own unique culture. And I think that's a real strength for the community, but I think at the same time, we don't necessarily transfer things that some schools are doing really well into the other schools, and I would really like us to try and figure that out. There are things that homeschool does better than anyone else, and we want to make sure that if they do that, why aren't we figuring out how to do that in all 8 of the elementaries? There are things at Irving, where my son went, that does better than anybody else, and why don't we take those things and work them around all 8 schools? In these 2 schools, I hear all sorts of things about what people love about Brooks, and I hear things about what people love about Julian, and they're different things, and we can probably learn from one another and make both schools better. So I'd like us to do that, and I think at the same time it would build a more district-wide culture that I think is a little bit imbalanced right now. People really are very tied to the school that they went to, or their kid goes to, and they're not too connected necessarily with the rest of the district, and I think if we could make it a little bit more about one district, that would be better. And then thirdly, whatever it is that we're doing on the board, what I really want to be able to do is figure out a way to make it be more institutional. I want to make sure, if you've been to any other forums, you've heard me say this before, I would like to make sure that what we do as board members is something that will outlive our time on the board. We have an amazing group of people right now to do really great things. We have a good superintendent, we have good board members who are continuing, we have good people running for the board right now. We can do really great things, but we have to make sure that when we do them, we're changing the structure and the systems of our district so that they outlive us and we don't end up moving backwards after we're gone. Because I don't know if I'll run again. I don't know if any of these other people will run again. And so, we want to make sure that whatever progress we're making can last beyond us.
Thanks, Rob. Dave Yamashita. It came down to 3 goals. I've talked about them a few times, but really put the board, the D97 board, in a position of leadership in trying to restore the trust that really is going to drive a lot of benefits long term. Really, the reason I started even being interested in running was really the disengagement with the board and the superintendent from the community that my child went to an elementary school. And certainly the excitement around Dr. Kelly's very well thought out with strong adherence to good management principles. Her vision is really a framework that we can work with. So that really is something that I believe will really help move that forward. The other is it's all about the teachers. I want a culture that really helps these teachers do their best. We will have systems of support. We'll try to get feedback that really helps them. I had outlined a system of feedback with the Oak Park Teachers Association that really would give them some wonderful feedback from parents. They would be able to give feedback on their principals and the superintendent and the board. This is the way that we get people engaged to do their best so that we get the most out of each and every one of our teachers. We engage the parents by trying to have them understand what it takes to optimally support a student. You know, up in my neighborhood, I asked around, would you be offended if you got a list of what educators have thought is going to help you optimally support your child at home so that they can take maximal advantage of what we offer here in D97? And I don't know what it is. I would love to have a list because education has changed so radically. So that's one of the things I think would be useful, plus for those homes that do not have the capacity and the capability, or the ability and capability. Offer of help as part of that interaction with them. The other thing is certainly financial stewardship. The fact of the matter is we are in fact at a point where many families are feeling like they're being priced out of this district or out of this community. It is a fact of life. Our taxes are quite high. There are people in this room that just talked with me this week. We need to take care of the commitment, the investment that this community puts in our hands. I hope that question number 2 does not come to pass, that we actually do pass this, and then all of us can do the right things around this. But it's going to take some careful assessment, keeping our eye on all the questions that I think many of the candidates have put forward to really make sure that these dollars are stretched, that they're sustainable, and that we don't come back asking for another referendum anytime soon. And we work with the other boards and taxing bodies within this community with that same goal in mind, because certainly, although D97 is 36% of your tax bill, there's a lot of other players in this mess as well. But that's my 3 goals.
Cynthia Ashford, Hollis. One of the goals I would like to see as well as Katherine's diversity of the staff, teacher staff. I think it's been far too long. The second thing is responsibility of the finances that we have to show that if it does pass, that we're being fiscally responsible and what we said we would do. If it doesn't pass, reallocation and being responsible in that way, and that we make sure that at least affects the education of the children. The third thing is, one thing that Oak Park is proud of is to say people come live here and raise your kids in our school. Well, as a result of that, we have a lot of kids coming here and families coming here, and we're being overcrowded. That's a huge issue right now. It has to be addressed. I do not want to see trailers on the playgrounds. I do not. I just do not want to see that. I think it's embarrassing. I think it's just an insult to our community if we let that happen. We need to address that issue, and that's one of the top priorities. If we're going to brag about Oak Park and say that this is the best place to raise your children, then we need to make sure that there's adequate spacing and make sure that the class size does not increase. We need the facilities to be there and the teachers to be there. Those are my 3 things that I would like to make priority if I get your vote. So thank you.
Back to me. Maya Ganguly, as I previously said. I think the number 1 priority needs to be getting the referendum passed. Referenda passed. I believe that's a Latin plural. I don't see how we can be sustainable and how we can let each child know they matter when we're asking them to sit in a trailer for their classroom. I just don't. It is very difficult for me to comprehend that aspect. Telling teachers we're going to be cutting them, that's going to hurt our trust with the teachers. The next thing is addressing the achievement gap through teacher support, looking at the child, auditing, trying to find those best methods, those procedural elements that we can add to the structure to give the support needed so that every child knows they matter. And the third would be community engagement and trust with the community, bridging that divide, that gap with the community. I don't just mean with the greater Oak Park community, but also with the teachers and with the parents and with everyone, growing stronger together.
Excellent. All right. Wow, it's been a night. It's been a night. Hopefully you've heard, thank you first and foremost. Candace, if we could just quick round of applause for the candidates. A lot has happened, so we just want to thank Maya Ganguly, Charity, I'm just going to go with first names, right? We're friends now, right? Heather, Katherine, Rob, Dave, Cynthia, thank you for your time. Thank you for answering the hard questions, and may the best person win. We also want to... Best three. Yeah, the best three. Film me. You got it. Thank you. Also, too, I just want to thank the timekeepers here. So, Hannah and Kate, thank you for keeping us on track. That's key. Laura's still here somewhere, right, as just a subset group who kind of helped pull us together. So we appreciate that. For those that want to maybe review this, just so you know, we've got Ed Pitt here in the front who, on behalf of all PTOs, taped this for us. So he's going to can this for us, compress it, get it pretty, get it sounding good, and we'll have this out to all the PTOs for people to review if you like. We also have materials from all the candidates on the tables here if you want to take some of that with you. The information is there about referenda yes, and just to be fair, there is a group, from what I'm told, that's referenda no. They're here somewhere. We don't have materials. They're out there somewhere, but we don't have materials. I'm just fair game. So again, thank you to the candidates. Thank you to the PTO Council for bringing this together, bringing the community together. Thanks to the Brooks administration for hosting us. We're happy because you're here in the Brooks PTO land. So my co-president here, Kelly Fleming, and myself, we thank you all for coming here. And again, just to you, the community, for coming out tonight. No Q&A, but if the candidates are able to stay, please feel free to come up and have just a personal time with them. And thank you all for coming out again. Thank you.